I remember the exact moment I stopped recognizing my husband. Not because he'd changed, but because I had finally seen him clearly after 4 decades of looking through expectations instead of at the person standing in front of me. My name is Eleanor. I'm 73 years old, and I've been married to the same man for 42 years. When people ask me what the secret is to a long marriage, they expect me to say something about compromise or communication or never going to bed angry. But the truth is, I don't think anyone who's been married as long as I have believes in secrets anymore. We believe in survival, in adaptation, in the strange mathematics of two people who've run out of ways to surprise each other but somehow haven't run out of ways to matter. I met Richard when I was 29, which felt practically ancient for a bride in 1982. He was an accountant with kind eyes and a nervous laugh, and he asked me to dance at my cousin's wedding even though he moved like someone who'd been told rhythm was a moral failing. I said yes because I was tired of men who were smooth. Smooth men, I'd learned, had too much practice. We got married 8 months later in a ceremony that cost less than a used car. My mother cried because she thought I was settling. His mother cried because she thought he was. And maybe we both were, in the way that all practical decisions about love involve some amount of settling, some quiet agreement that perfect doesn't exist, and good enough is actually quite good if you let it be. The first decade was the easiest, which surprised me. Everyone had warned me about adjustment and compromise, but we were both so grateful to have found someone tolerable that tolerance felt like passion. We made love 3 times a week like it was a prescription. We split the household tasks with the precision of people who'd read the same magazine articles about modern marriage. We said "I love you" before hanging up the phone, even when we were just coordinating who would pick up milk. The second decade was harder. Our daughter was born, and then our son, and suddenly we weren't 2 people sharing space anymore, but 2 people managing a small corporation of needs and schedules and constant grinding fatigue. Richard worked late. I resented it. I gained weight. He never mentioned it, which somehow felt worse than if he had. We had the same fight about his mother visiting for Thanksgiving 7 years in a row, using slightly different words each time as if we might stumble onto a combination that would make the argument new. But we didn't fall apart. We did what people do. We showed up. We paid the mortgage. We sat in bleachers watching our children play sports neither of us understood. We had sex less frequently, but with more appreciation for the mechanics of it. The small miracle that our bodies still fit together in this particular way. The third decade is when things got strange. The kids left. The house got quiet. And Richard and I found ourselves sitting across from each other at dinner with nothing to talk about, except the news and the weather, and whether we needed more paper towels. I looked at him one night, really looked, and realized I had no idea what he thought about most things. His internal life had become a mystery to me. Or maybe it always had been, and I'd just been too busy to notice. I thought about leaving. Not dramatically, not with ultimatums or affairs, but in the quiet way women my age think about leaving, wondering if it's too late to have a different life, calculating the financial logistics, imagining an apartment somewhere with plants I'd chosen myself. I didn't tell Richard this. We'd been married 30 years by then, and I'd learned that marriage past a certain point is as much about what you don't say as what you do. But I didn't leave. And not because I loved him so desperately I couldn't imagine life without him. I didn't leave because leaving felt like just another version of the same problem. The belief that somewhere else, with someone else, or alone, I would finally feel the thing I thought I was supposed to feel. That electric certainty, that endless fascination. The fourth decade is where I am now. And this is the part that's hard to explain to people who haven't gotten here yet. Something shifted. Not because we suddenly discovered passion again, or because we had some breakthrough conversation that unlocked 30 years of emotional distance. We didn't. Richard is still quiet and still works too much and still doesn't understand why I need to process things out loud before I can know what I think. I still make comments about his driving that he pretends not to hear. We still have the same essential disagreement about how cold the bedroom should be at night. But I stopped waiting for him to be different. I stopped holding him accountable to some idea of husband I'd assembled from movies and books and other people's marriages that probably weren't as good as they looked anyway. I started seeing him as just Richard, a man who brings me coffee every morning without asking how I take it because he's made it the same way for 42 years, who still holds my hand in parking lots like I might wander off, who knows which of our grandchildren I'm talking about even when I can't remember their names, which happens more now than I'd like to admit. The hard truth about marriage after 40 years is that it's not about love, not the way we talk about love when we're young. It's about witness. Richard has seen me at every age, in every mood, through every failure and small triumph. He knows what I look like first thing in the morning and how I cry, and what I sound like when I'm genuinely happy versus when I'm performing happiness for other people. He remembers things about me that I've forgotten about myself. He's the only person left alive who knew my father. There's a weight to that kind of knowing. Sometimes it feels like intimacy, and sometimes it feels like surveillance. But it's real in a way that romance never quite is. Romance is about potential, about what could be. Marriage after 40 years is about what actually happened, about the life you actually built with all its strange compromises and unexpected grace notes. I wish I could tell you that we're madly in love, that the passion came roaring back, that we look at each other across the breakfast table with the same excitement we felt at 30. But that would be a lie. What we have is steadier and stranger than that. We have history. We have habit. We have the particular comfort of knowing someone so completely that you don't have to explain yourself. And the particular loneliness of being known so completely that you can't pretend to be anyone else. Last week, Richard fell asleep in his chair watching the news, and I sat there looking at him for a long time. His mouth was open. His glasses were crooked. He's not the man I married. Not physically. That man had dark hair and a flat stomach and didn't make small sounds when he stood up from sitting. But he's the man I've lived with. The man who painted our daughter's bedroom yellow when she was 7 because she decided yellow was her favorite color that week. The man who held my hand at my mother's funeral and didn't try to make me feel better, just sat there being solid while I fell apart. I don't know if I love him, if I'm being completely honest. I don't know if what we have counts as love by anyone else's definition. But I know that my life is tangled up with his in ways I couldn't undo even if I wanted to. I know that when I imagine the future, he's there, drinking his coffee too hot and wearing those terrible sandals I hate. I know that the thought of him not being here makes everything feel uncertain in a way I'm not ready to face. Maybe that's not enough. Maybe you're supposed to have more than that after 42 years. But it's what we have, and most days, it feels like more than enough. Most days, it feels like everything. If you're young and in love right now, I can't tell you what your marriage will look like in 4 decades, but I can tell you this: it won't look like you think it will. The person you're promising forever to will change, and so will you, and you'll both have to decide over and over again whether you still want to be in the room together when everything else falls away. And if you keep deciding yes, not because it's easy or exciting, but because it's true, you might wake up one day 40 years later and realize that the thing you built wasn't the thing you planned, but it's yours. It's completely, irreplaceably yours. And maybe, in the end, that's what marriage is. Not finding the right person, but building the right history. Not feeling the right feelings, but showing up anyway, morning after morning, until the showing up becomes its own kind of love.